The massacre at New Terra. The colony of New Terra had existed peacefully for 9 years on the edge of human-controlled space. 800 families called this world home, working in agriculture and research facilities under protective atmospheric domes. The planet orbited a gentle yellow star, and though it was distant from Earth, the colonists had built a thriving community. Children attended school in the morning, parents tended to hydroponic farms in the afternoon, and in the evenings, families gathered to watch the twin moons rise over the horizon. Everyone believed they were safe in this quiet corner of the galaxy. Governor Marcus Chen was reviewing quarterly production reports when the first plasma blast struck the northern dome. The explosion was so powerful that it shattered windows 3 kilometers away. Alarms shrieked throughout the colony as emergency systems activated automatically. Marcus dropped his tablet and ran to the observation window. What he saw made his blood turn cold. 6 massive warships hung in orbit above New Terra, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The ships bore the crimson markings of the Valkyrie Empire, a militaristic species that controlled 12 star systems and had a reputation for aggressive expansion. Chief Security Officer Sarah Kim sprinted to her station and began analyzing the attack. Her hands flew across the holographic interface as data streamed in from sensors across the colony. "We have multiple hull breaches in sectors 4 through 7, she shouted over the chaos. The northern dome has completely collapsed. Atmospheric pressure is dropping rapidly in residential zones. Marcus felt his heart sink. The northern dome housed primarily families with young children. He activated the colony-wide emergency broadcast system. "This is Governor Chen. All personnel proceed immediately to emergency shelters. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Seek shelter now." More plasma blasts rained down from the Valkyrie ships. They were not targeting military installations because New Terra had none. They were not aiming at industrial facilities or government buildings. The Valkyrie were deliberately firing at residential areas, at schools, at the medical center where sick and elderly colonists received care. The attacks were methodical and merciless. Marcus watched in horror as the Eastern Dome, which contained the primary school, took a direct hit. The structure held for 3 seconds before the reinforced glass shattered. Atmosphere rushed out into space with a sound like a scream. Everyone inside had no chance to reach emergency suits or escape pods. The bombardment continued for 47 minutes. When the Valkyrie ships finally stopped firing and jumped back into hyperspace, 319 people were dead. 112 of them were children under the age of 15. The survivors huddled in underground shelters, listening to structural alarms warning of failing life support systems. Medical teams worked frantically to treat the wounded, but supplies were limited and injuries were severe. Dr. Rachel Foster moved through the crowded shelter, doing what she could with limited resources. She had been a colonist for 6 years and knew most of these people by name. Now she was treating burns and radiation poisoning in children she had watched grow up. Marcus stood in the emergency command center, his hands shaking as he prepared the distress signal to Earth. Blood from a head wound dripped down his face, but he ignored it. The communication equipment had been damaged in the attack, and it took Sarah 15 minutes to establish a connection strong enough to transmit across interstellar distances. When the link finally stabilized, Marcus stared into the camera and began recording. "This is Governor Marcus Chen of New Terra Colony. We have suffered an unprovoked attack by Valkyrie military forces. We have massive civilian casualties. 319 confirmed dead, including 112 children. Our infrastructure is critically damaged. We need immediate evacuation and medical assistance." The Valkyrie gave no warning. They did not issue demands or declarations. They simply opened fire on civilian targets. "We are defenseless. Please help us." The message would take 6 hours to reach Earth due to the vast distance between the colony and humanity's homeworld. 6 hours while the survivors tried to repair life support systems and dig through rubble, searching for anyone who might still be alive. Sarah coordinated rescue teams while Marcus attempted to contact the Galactic Council. The Council was an ancient organization that supposedly maintained peace and order. Among the 300 species that belonged to it, humanity had joined the Council only 15 years ago, and the relationship had been difficult from the start. Older species treated humans as inexperienced newcomers who needed constant guidance and restrictions. After 2 hours of trying, Marcus finally reached a council representative. The holographic image showed a Thraxian diplomat, a species known for bureaucratic procedures and elaborate protocols. Governor Chen, the representative said in a tone that suggested mild annoyance at being disturbed. What is the nature of your communication? We have been attacked, Marcus said, struggling to keep his voice steady. The Velkari Empire launched an unprovoked assault on our colony. Hundreds of civilians are dead. We need the council to intervene immediately. The Thraxian made a gesture that might have been sympathy or might have been dismissal. It was hard to tell with their species. This is most unfortunate. I will file a formal complaint and schedule an emergency session to discuss the matter. The committee should convene within 3 standard weeks. 3 weeks. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. In 3 weeks, most of the survivors would be dead from failing life support or lack of medical supplies. We do not have 3 weeks, he said through clenched teeth. We need help now. The Thraxian's expression did not change. The council has established procedures that must be followed. These procedures exist to ensure fair and balanced responses to all conflicts. I understand your distress, but patience is required. Marcus ended the transmission before he said something that would make the situation worse. He turned to Sarah, who had been listening to the conversation. The council is not going to help us, he said quietly. Sarah's face hardened. Then Earth will have to help itself. On Earth, President Victoria Chen received the distress signal in the middle of the night. She was not related to Governor Marcus Chen, but the shared surname made the message feel even more personal. She sat in the Situation Room of the Global Defense Council headquarters and watched the recording 5 times. Each viewing was harder than the last. The footage from New Terra showed children running through collapsing corridors. It showed parents desperately trying to seal breaches with their own bodies. It showed the methodical way the Velkari ships targeted the most vulnerable areas of the colony. Admiral James Wright arrived at the Situation Room within 20 minutes of being summoned. He was followed by General Catherine Torres and Minister of Intelligence David Park. All 3 had seen the footage before entering the room, and all 3 looked like they wanted to break something. We need to respond immediately, James said without preamble. Every hour we delay, more colonists die from their injuries or failing infrastructure. Victoria nodded slowly. She had been president for 7 years and had never faced a decision like this. What are our options? Catherine pulled up a holographic display showing the disposition of Earth's military forces. We have 79 warships in active service. That includes everything from destroyers to our 3 carrier groups. We can have the entire fleet ready to deploy within 18 hours. The journey to New Terra will take 4 days at maximum speed. David leaned forward, his expression troubled. Madame President, if we commit our entire fleet to this operation, we leave Earth itself with minimal defense. Additionally, the Galactic Council will view this as an act of aggression. They have made it clear they expect disputes to be resolved through diplomatic channels. Victoria stood and walked to the observation window overlooking the city below. Millions of people lived their lives down there, unaware that humanity was about to make a decision that would change everything. Tell me about the Velkari Empire, she said to David. What kind of species are we dealing with? David activated his datapad and began reading from intelligence reports. The Velkari are an old species, at least 4,000 years more advanced than humanity. They control 12 star systems and have a population of approximately 30 billion. Their culture values military strength above all else. They have engaged in 7 major wars over the past 2 centuries, usually targeting younger species that they view as weak. Diplomatic relations between Earth and the Velkari have been minimal and cold. So they attacked New Terra because they thought we would not fight back, James said. They thought we were an easy target. That assessment is likely correct, David agreed. The Velkari have been pressuring the Council to restrict human expansion for years. This attack was probably intended to intimidate us into accepting tighter limitations on our colonies. Victoria turned back to face her advisors. How would our fleet match up against Velkari military forces? James smiled grimly. That is where things get interesting. The Velkari think they know our capabilities, but they are working with outdated information. When we applied for council membership 15 years ago, we deliberately understated our military technology. We did not want to be perceived as a threat. The truth is, our weapon systems are significantly more advanced than what the Velkari possess. Our railguns can fire projectiles at 0.97% the speed of light. Our energy shields use quantum dispersion technology that no other council species has developed. Our fighter pilots train in neural interface systems that make them faster and more accurate. than any biological pilot could be without augmentation. Catherine continued the assessment. In addition, our tactical doctrine is based on 3,000 years of human warfare. We have studied every conflict in our history and learned from them. The Velkari rely on overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority. They fight the same way they have fought for centuries. We can adapt, improvise, and outthink them. Victoria listened carefully to everything her advisors were telling her. The military picture was clear. Earth could win this fight, but there were other considerations beyond pure military capability. If we do this, if we send our entire fleet to destroy Velkari military forces, the Council will condemn us. They will impose sanctions. They might even attempt to isolate Earth completely from galactic trade and communication. Paul Henderson, the Secretary of State, had been silent until now. He spoke with the weariness of someone who had spent 15 years trying to navigate Council politics. Madam President, the Council has never respected us. They have blocked our trade agreements, restricted our territorial claims, and treated our representatives with barely concealed contempt. We have tried diplomacy. We have tried patience. We have followed every rule they established. And when we needed them most, when our people were dying, they told us to wait 3 weeks for a committee meeting. He paused. Maybe it is time the Council learned that humanity is not a species that can be pushed around. Victoria made her decision. She had known what she would do from the moment she saw the footage, but she needed to hear the full situation before committing. Admiral Wright, mobilize the entire fleet. I want every ship we have ready to deploy within 12 hours. Our mission is threefold. First, evacuate the survivors from New Terra and provide immediate medical assistance. Second, hunt down the Velkari ships responsible for this attack and destroy them. Third, eliminate the Velkari Empire's ability to ever threaten human colonies again. James straightened. Madame President, that third objective implies total war against the Velkari. Are you authorizing the destruction of their military infrastructure across all 12 of their systems? Victoria's voice was cold and absolutely certain. The Velkari murdered our children without warning or mercy. They celebrated this attack as a demonstration of their power. I want their military bases turned to rubble. I want their shipyards reduced to scrap metal. I want their weapons factories melted to slag. And I want every species in this galaxy to understand that attacking humanity has consequences. She looked at each person in the room. We gave the Council a chance to handle this through their systems. They refused. Now we do it our way. Catherine asked the question that everyone was thinking. What about Velkari civilians? Do we evacuate them before attacking military targets? Absolutely, Victoria said firmly. We are not monsters like they are. We give them warning. We allow evacuation time. We only target military and industrial sites. But their soldiers, their commanders, everyone who participated in or ordered this attack, they do not get mercy. Within hours, Earth's entire military mobilized for war. 79 warships prepared for immediate deployment. Fighter squadrons ran final checks on their craft. Marines loaded equipment and weapons. Medical ships stocked supplies to treat wounded colonists. The fleet would travel in 3 waves. The first wave, consisting of the fastest ships, would reach New Terra in 3 days and begin evacuation operations. The second wave would arrive 12 hours later with the main battle group. The third wave would bring support vessels and supply ships. Admiral James Wright stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable and addressed his officers. We are about to engage in the largest military operation in human history. Our enemy thinks we are weak. They think we will accept this massacre and do nothing. They are about to learn how wrong they are. Every person on this ship, every person in this fleet, knows what we are fighting for. We saw the children. We heard their screams. We will not let their deaths go unanswered. The officers responded with grim determination. They had all watched the footage. They all understood what was at stake. As the fleet prepared to jump into hyperspace, Victoria made one final transmission to the Galactic Council. The holographic message showed her standing in the Situation Room, her expression harder than steel. This is President Victoria Chen of Earth. 6 hours ago, the Velkari Empire launched an unprovoked attack on our colony at New Terra. 319 civilians are dead, including 112 children. We requested immediate council intervention. We were told to wait 3 weeks for a committee meeting. Earth is done waiting. Earth is done asking for your permission. Earth is done being treated like a problem that needs to be managed. The Velkari wanted to see what happens when you attack humanity. We are about to show them. And when this is over, every species in this council will understand that human lives matter, that our children matter, that we will protect our own with or without your approval. The fleet is launching. Justice is coming. The transmission ended. Moments later, 79 warships vanished into hyperspace, carrying Earth's fury toward the Velkari Empire. Behind them, Victoria stood at the window and watched the stars. She had just started a war that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. There was no turning back now. Earth's unstoppable retaliation. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Velkari home system, like avenging angels wrapped in steel and fury. Admiral James Wright stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching his tactical displays as 79 warships moved into attack formation. The journey had taken 4 days, and every hour of that time had been filled with planning, preparation, and growing rage as more reports came in from New Terra. The final death toll had reached 347 civilians. 28 more people had died from their injuries while waiting for help that came too slowly. The Velkari homeworld of Velkros Prime hung in the distance, a blue and green planet surrounded by defensive stations and patrol ships. The system was heavily fortified, exactly as intelligence reports had predicted. 16 orbital defense platforms ringed the planet, each one capable of destroying a battleship with sustained fire. 42 Velkari warships patrolled the system in standard defensive patterns. It was an impressive display of military power, the kind of force that would make most species reconsider any aggressive action. But Admiral Wright was not most species, and humanity was done being cautious. "Open a channel to all Velkari military forces," James ordered. His communications officer worked quickly, and within seconds a connection was established. "This is Admiral James Wright of the Earth Defense Fleet. 4 days ago, your forces attacked the human colony at New Terra without warning or provocation. You murdered 347 civilians, including 128 children. You targeted schools, hospitals, and residential areas. You celebrated your victory over defenseless people." The bridge was silent as James continued. "We are here to deliver justice. All Velkari military personnel have 1 hour to evacuate civilian areas. After that time, we will destroy every military installation, every weapons factory, every shipyard, and every defensive platform in this system. Non-combatants will be allowed to leave safely. This is your only warning." The response came quickly from Velkari Supreme Commander Thravix, whose image appeared on the view screen. The Velkari were a reptilian species with dark green scales and eyes that glowed with amber light. Thravix wore elaborate armor decorated with medals from dozens of campaigns. His expression showed contempt and amusement. "You dare threaten the Velkari Empire? We have conquered civilizations that existed before your species learned to make fire. Your pathetic fleet will be destroyed, and we will finish what we started at your colony. We will burn every human world until your species learns its proper place." James had expected this response. The Velkari culture valued strength and viewed compromise as weakness. They would never back down from a direct challenge, which was exactly what he was counting on. "Very well," James said calmly. "You have made your choice. All ships weapons free. Execute Attack Plan Alpha." The human fleet surged forward with coordinated precision that came from months of intensive training. The first wave consisted of 20 fast destroyers equipped with electronic warfare systems. They accelerated to incredible speeds, their engines pushing them faster than the Velkari sensors could track accurately. As they closed the distance, these ships unleashed a barrage of specialized missiles designed to disrupt enemy communications and targeting systems. The Velkari defensive network, which had worked perfectly for 200 years, suddenly went dark. Commanders shouted orders that their ships never received. Targeting computers locked onto phantom signals while real threats went undetected. The second wave hit while the Velkari were still trying to restore their systems. 30 human battleships, each one armed with railguns that could fire solid metal projectiles at nearly the speed of light, opened fire from maximum range. The results were devastating. Velkari shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and conventional missiles, were useless against kinetic rounds moving at such extreme velocity. The first orbital platform exploded 3 seconds after being hit. Metal and debris scattered into space as the massive structure broke apart. The second and third platforms lasted only slightly longer. Velkari patrol ships attempted to intercept the human fleet, but they were outmatched in every category that mattered. Human fighters launched from carrier groups and swept through the Velkari formations like sharks through a school of fish. Lieutenant Commander Sarah. Mitchell piloted her fighter through a swarm of Velkari interceptors with practiced ease. Her neural interface connected her thoughts directly to the ship's controls, allowing her to react faster than any biological pilot using manual systems. "Enemy on your 6, her wingman called over the comm. Sarah rolled her fighter inverted and pulled into a climb that would have killed an unaugmented human from the G-forces involved. Her targeting computer acquired the Velkari ship, and she fired a burst from her pulse lasers. The enemy interceptor exploded in a ball of flame. "Fox 2, Splash 1 Bandit," she reported, moving to engage the next group. All around her, human pilots demonstrated the superiority of their training and technology. The Velkari fought with courage, but courage alone could not overcome the tactical and technical advantages the humans possessed. On the Indomitable's bridge, Tactical Officer Commander David Park tracked the battle's progress. "Sir, we have destroyed 8 orbital platforms and 23 enemy ships. Our losses are 0 vessels destroyed, 3 fighters with minor damage. The Velkari are attempting to regroup near their shipyards." James studied the tactical display. The Velkari shipyards were massive orbital constructs where new warships were built and maintained. Destroying them would cripple the Empire's ability to replace combat losses. "Send this message to the shipyards. All civilian workers have 30 minutes to evacuate. After that, we are destroying the facilities. Make sure they understand we are serious." The transmission went out, and this time the Velkari listened. Hundreds of small transport craft began fleeing the shipyards, carrying engineers and construction workers to safety on the planet below. Admiral Wright watched the countdown timer. He felt no satisfaction in what was about to happen, only grim necessity. The Velkari had forced this confrontation through their own actions. They had chosen violence against civilians, and now they were learning that such choices had consequences. When the 30 minutes expired, James gave the order. "All batteries target the shipyards. Fire at will." The human fleet unleashed a devastating bombardment. Railguns fired continuously, their projectiles punching through the shipyard's structural supports. Energy weapons cut through metal like paper. Missiles slammed into reactor cores and fuel storage tanks. The shipyards, which had been building Velkari warships for 300 years, came apart in massive explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Supreme Commander Thravix watched from his command center on the planet's surface as humanity systematically dismantled his empire's military power. His officers stood in shocked silence, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. "How is this possible?" Thravix demanded. "Our intelligence reports said the humans were barely capable of defending their own system." "They lied," his intelligence officer said quietly. "They deliberately understated their capabilities when they joined the Council. Our entire assessment of their military strength was based on false information." Thravix slammed his clawed fist on the console. "Then get me accurate information now. What are their true capabilities?" The officer pulled up data from the ongoing battle. "Their weapons technology is at least 50 years more advanced than ours. Their ships are faster and more maneuverable. Their pilots train in neural interface systems that give them superhuman reaction times. Their tactical coordination is perfect. We are not fighting a young species, Commander. We are fighting an opponent who has been preparing for this exact scenario." The battle for the Velkari home system lasted 6 hours. When it ended, all 16 orbital defense platforms were destroyed. The shipyards were reduced to scattered debris. 42 Velkari warships had been eliminated, with only 9 managing to escape into hyperspace. Human casualties were remarkably light: 5 fighters destroyed and 1 destroyer with moderate damage. The disparity in losses was so extreme that military historians would later study the battle as an example of how technological and tactical superiority could overcome numerical advantages. But Admiral Wright was not finished. The Velkari Empire controlled 12 star systems, and justice required visiting each one. The human fleet split into 4 task forces, each one assigned to specific Velkari systems. They moved with the precision of a surgical strike team, jumping into each system, broadcasting evacuation warnings, then systematically destroying military targets. Weapons factories were melted into slag. Military academies were leveled. Command centers were reduced to craters. But true to President Chen's orders, the humans gave civilians time to evacuate and only struck military and industrial targets. Not a single human weapon was fired at residential areas, schools, or hospitals. The contrast with the Valkyrie attack on New Terra could not have been more stark. At the Galactic Council, emergency sessions convened around the clock as representatives watched the human offensive with growing alarm. The council chamber, usually a place of careful debate and measured responses, erupted into chaos. Ambassador Thorian of the Krelix Federation demanded immediate action. The humans must be stopped. This level of military aggression cannot be tolerated. They are destroying an entire empire. Ambassador Zhou Wei of Earth stood at the human delegation's position, her expression calm despite the shouting around her. The Valkyrie destroyed our colony and murdered our children. Where was this concern when our people were dying? Where were these emergency sessions when we needed help? The council arbiter, an ancient being from the Ithros collective named Elder Morath, raised one crystalline appendage for silence. Ambassador Zhou, the council acknowledges that the Valkyrie attack was a violation of established laws. However, your species' response has been disproportionate. You are not simply defending yourselves. You are systematically eliminating the Valkyrie Empire's ability to function as a sovereign power. Zhou's voice remained steady. The Valkyrie demonstrated that they cannot be trusted to exist as a military power. They attack civilians without provocation. They celebrate the murder of children. We are ensuring they never have the capacity to repeat such actions. That is not disproportionate. That is practical. Ambassador Velrith of the Thraxian Dominion spoke up. His species had been among those who consistently blocked human expansion in council votes. Your actions set a dangerous precedent. If every species responded to attacks with total warfare, the galaxy would descend into chaos. Zhou turned to face him directly. Ambassador Velrith, your species has been at peace for 600 years. You have the luxury of judging others because no one dares attack you. Humanity does not have that luxury. We are a young species surrounded by empires that view us as inferior. The Valkyrie attacked us to test whether we would fight back. If we had responded with half measures and diplomatic protests, we would have marked ourselves as easy targets. Every aggressive species in the galaxy would have lined up to take their turn. The truth of her words hung in the chamber. Several ambassadors who had been preparing to condemn Earth fell silent. They remembered their own species' histories, the wars they had fought for survival, the enemies they had crushed to ensure their people's safety. Elder Morath spoke again, his ancient voice carrying weight that few dared to challenge. The humans make a valid point. The council failed to respond appropriately to the Valkyrie aggression. Our procedures, designed to prevent hasty action, instead prevented any action at all. Perhaps we have become too comfortable in our stability, too willing to sacrifice the interests of younger species to maintain our convenience. Back in Valkyrie space, Supreme Commander Thravix finally accepted reality. His empire was being systematically destroyed, and he had no way to stop it. The human fleets moved through his systems like unstoppable forces of nature. Every defensive position was overwhelmed. Every counterattack was defeated. The proud Valkyrie military, which had conquered 7 species and never known defeat, was being crushed by an opponent they had dismissed as weak and inexperienced. Thravix opened a communication channel to Admiral Wright, his pride finally broken by the weight of his empire's losses. "Admiral Wright," Thravix said, his voice heavy with defeat. "I am prepared to discuss terms of surrender." James regarded the Valkyrie commander without sympathy. "You are prepared to surrender now that your military is destroyed and your shipyards are burning. Where was this willingness to talk when you were bombing our colony?" Thravix's scales had lost their vibrant color. "It was a mistake. Our intelligence failed us. We believed you would not respond with such force, so you attacked us because you thought we were weak," James said coldly. "You murdered children because you believed there would be no consequences. Now you want mercy because you realize you were wrong about us. What do you want from us?" Thravix asked. "What will it take for you to stop this destruction?" James leaned forward. "Here are Earth's terms. The Valkyrie Empire will dismantle all remaining military installations. Your fleet will be reduced to system defense ships only. No vessels capable of interstellar travel. You will pay reparations to the families of New Terra victims. You will surrender all officers involved in planning and executing the attack for trial, and you will broadcast a full confession to every species in the Council, admitting what you did and accepting responsibility." Thravix flinched at each requirement. "These terms will destroy us as a power in the galaxy." "That is the point," James replied. "You wanted to destroy our colony to demonstrate your strength. Now you get to demonstrate what happens when you fail. You have 6 hours to accept these terms. If you refuse, we continue operations until there is nothing left of your military infrastructure. The 6 hours passed in tense silence. Velkari leadership argued among themselves, some wanting to fight to the last ship, while others recognized that continued resistance would only bring more destruction. Finally, Thravix transmitted his acceptance. The Velkari Empire agrees to your terms. We surrender unconditionally. James received the transmission and immediately ordered all human forces to cease offensive operations. Secure all positions and maintain defensive readiness, he commanded. We are not leaving until we verify compliance with every term. The human fleet settled into occupation positions around key Velkari worlds, their presence a constant reminder of what had happened. President Victoria Chen addressed Earth's population and the broader galaxy from her office. The holographic broadcast reached billions of viewers across hundreds of worlds. 6 days ago, the Velkari Empire attacked our colony at New Terra. They killed 347 innocent people, including 128 children. They did this without warning, without provocation, and without mercy. Today, the Velkari have surrendered. Their military has been neutralized. Justice has been served. She paused, her expression serious. Some will say we went too far. Some will argue that our response was excessive. To those critics, I say this. We gave the Galactic Council a chance to handle this situation through their systems. They offered us committee meetings while our people lay dying. We are done waiting for others to protect us. We are done accepting restrictions on our ability to defend ourselves. Humanity is not looking for conflict, but we will never again allow our people to be attacked without consequences. The broadcast continued. We followed the rules of war even though our enemy did not. We evacuated civilians. We targeted only military installations. We offered surrender terms instead of total annihilation. We showed more restraint and humanity than the Velkari showed us. But make no mistake, we were willing to go as far as necessary, and we are still willing. Any species considering aggression against human interests should understand what you witnessed here. This is what happens when you attack Earth. This is the price of threatening our people. The message was clear and unmistakable. Humanity had announced itself as a power that would not be pushed around or intimidated. The young species that had joined the Council 15 years ago had revealed capabilities that shocked the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, the political landscape shifted dramatically. The Galactic Council, faced with evidence of their own failure to respond appropriately, implemented reforms to their emergency response procedures. Several species that had previously dismissed humanity began requesting diplomatic meetings and trade agreements. The Velkari Empire, once a regional power, became a cautionary tale told across the galaxy. Their military was dismantled, their leaders faced trial, and their territory was placed under council supervision. The survivors of New Terra were evacuated to a new colony world where they could rebuild their lives away from the memories of tragedy. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as the fleet prepared to return to Earth. His officers had performed brilliantly, executing complex military operations with precision and discipline. But James took no joy in the victory. Too many people had died on New Terra. Too many families had been destroyed. The war had been necessary, the response proportional to the crime. But it was still a tragedy that could have been avoided if the Velkari had chosen differently. Commander Park approached with the final casualty reports. Sir, total human losses across all operations were 43 personnel. Velkari military losses exceeded 70,000. Their industrial capacity is reduced by 87%. We achieved every objective. James nodded slowly. Make sure those 43 names are never forgotten. They died protecting humanity's right to exist without fear. That matters more than any tactical victory. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy that would never underestimate humanity again. Earth had proven itself willing and able to defend its interests with overwhelming force. The species that attacked humans had learned a harsh lesson, and every other species in the galaxy had learned it too. Humanity was no longer a young species to be managed and controlled. They were a power to be respected and, if necessary, feared. The massacre at New Terra would be remembered, but so would Earth's response. Justice had come, delivered with precision and fury, and the galaxy would never be quite the same.